And we lie in every single one of these, so they're always different.
Amazing.
Yeah, it makes it unique.
Yeah.
For us, it comes down to songs. You know, we come from an era where we grew up on, where the song was the key to everything. We grew up on rock, we're influenced by everything, but I think just, yeah, all those influences seep in from the songs that had, you know, moving melodies, moving harmony, you know, where I feel like, you know, I don't want to pigeonhole everything right now, but music feels really linear right now, and I think that we're trying to hold on to, you know, that aspect of it.
Yeah, it's all about the melody to me.
We talked about it before in the session, where it's like, I feel like this is the beginning of a whole new chapter in the music industry. Like, I always equate it to the era where, you know, you imagine them, it's like they're selling singles out of the back of a trunk in the 50s. Like, nobody, there were singles, nobody knew what the industry was going to be, nobody was really making a living in commercial music in that respect, like, you know, this hit-driven music. And then that developed into the album, that developed into the rock operas, like they went from a single and turned it in an album into an art form.
Yeah, it's like technology has now leveled the playing field for everyone. It's not only whoever has the money can make an album, which just costs a fortune. Now, because anyone can do it, the difference will truly be the creativity of the artist.
You know, nothing replaces everybody in the same room. And that was cool about doing the LDN thing, is like that live moment in the room, which is completely different. But it allows you to do anything. You can send it off and have somebody across the world mix it. And that's phenomenal, and I think that'll be lost a little bit on this generation, where you don't have the reference of going, man, like, that used to be a lot of work. And now you can just reach out and go, hey, this guy's got 20 Grammys, and I can send him a track, and he's willing to work on the album, because you can message him personally on Instagram, hey, you like this? Yeah, cool, here's a price, boom, done. That would have never happened 20 years ago.
Yeah, he was in California once, and I Skyped into one of our sessions.
Exactly.
Because I stayed behind. But
Exactly.
I could listen to takes, and it was amazing. Like, our philosophy is, can you strip it down to one guitar and one piano and a voice, and it's still a good song without all the other technological aspects on it, and auto-tune and the, you know, stuff like that. I've tried to do that. I've tried to go, I'm gonna get inspired, and it just doesn't work. It's like when you want to write, sometimes you sit down, you're like, I'm gonna write something. Never quite comes out, but it's gonna be a moment like you're watching a show, or you're like, now Netflix is like, it's like movies 20 years ago. Netflix has so many good stories that you'll see something and it'll trigger an idea, or a song will trigger another idea. Because now it's like you get exposed to so much. There's almost too much media, that there's also more things to be inspired by, like another movie or another show or another song. Something's gonna hit you that's gonna spark an idea, and there's just more of those inspirational or potentially inspirational things.
Well, and going into some of the new material for us, like, it was world events. Like, we traditionally had a lot of, you know, it's like relationship, love songs, all that, and going into the new material, like song like Rise is environmentally conscious. It's a look at what's going on around us in terms of climate change, all that. Well, back in our hometown of Montreal, I had a recording studio, and it was through, and it was when things were in black and white, and it was through a musician that a mutual friend, like, he was like, I'm working on a new project, and defined it as we defined it to you. It was like, you know, we want songs and just kind of go with that. And he goes, oh, I know this guy that sings. And I always say it was like feeding a stray cat. He showed up at the studio and then never left.
I've never been to a real studio before. I was like, I never want to leave here ever. He's like, no, eventually you'll want to.
Yeah, you'll learn to hate it.
The UK is just a lot easier because it's so small.
Yeah,
to us, it's so small.
We always talk about it being relatives, like, you know, we meet a lot of the UK bands, like, oh, we want to go there. So it's always America, right? So we want to go to America. I'm like, until you've driven 16 hours between shows, you don't know how big it is. It's like the 5 UKs fits in the province of Ontario. So we'll route a tour and be like, oh, Aberdeen, and then we got to go to Brighton in a day. And I was like, oh my God, what are you gonna do? I'm like, you can do that overnight. It's like, we'll go, thank you. And the difference in even just like musical culture from an hour up the road, like, you go across London and it's completely different. And I find in Canada, that's because it's, I guess the cities are just kind of stuck together. It's a bit more like, if you're in Montreal, it's kind of one thing. If you're in Ottawa, it's kind of another thing. Toronto's a bit more diverse.
It's not a shot against, like, there's a lot of new music that I go, wow, that's really cool. But it doesn't, for some reason, it doesn't strike as much of a chord as some of the stuff. You're never gonna love any new stuff as much as you love the stuff when you were a teenager? Like the bands that you loved when you were in high school, whatever.
You
like,
romanticize.
Exactly, you romanticize them, and you're never gonna feel. They say you're never gonna feel as strongly about a new band as strongly as you did about those bands. But I love Kings of Leon is cool. So like even some of the newer Kings of Leon stuff and some. God.
Yes, yeah, I may be a bit more eclectic that way, and I'll throw on Discover Weekly. Often I'll dig into some of the country stuff, and I think some of the new Dua Lipa stuff is just outstanding pop. And then the other side is sometimes I'll just pick, or I'll go down a rabbit hole with one of them, and I'll hear a song on Discover Weekly, and then do an artist radio, and then that kind of takes you down a rabbit hole. So we're just going a song at a time. Every 6 to 12 weeks, just trying to get something out there, challenging ourselves with every song. It allows us to treat every song like we would normally treat an album, where you kind of have this whole concept of a group of songs. We're kind of letting the songs and our songwriting guide us in directions, and let that speak to us. And if we get to 10 songs that feel like a unit, then it may become an album. It may take us 20 songs to find 10 that work together. To be able to walk into a room with a group of musicians and you're halfway through the first rundown of the tune and it sounds like a tune, it's like the day is going to be great. It was an absolute pleasure to be here, and I'm really excited about stuff like this because it gives an outlet and a channel for artists of every genre, of all different levels, to have content that's well recorded, well shot, great questions, and then, man, I just think it's.
I'm gonna go on record to say, this is my musical highlight probably of this tour. Will be what we did today.
Wow. There you go.
That's how much fun it was.
No, it was fantastic.
Thanks.
Sick.
Cool, man. It was fun.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, that was awesome.
You can probably cut that down to a usable minute or two, I guess.
Yeah,
but
yeah.